Welcome to another Intentional Health for Women podcast. I'm your host, Garrett GQ Query, and I'm joined by my guest, Earth Sugars owner, Jenny.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. How are we doing today?
I'm doing great.
Doing good. You just got back 10 days in Switzerland.
Yes, it was the coolest time ever. It was so much fun. Even more beautiful than any picture you've ever seen. It's nothing compares to seeing those mountains in real life. It was awesome.
Yeah. Jenny, let's kind of start from the beginning. Like, you grew up in New Jersey.
Yes.
You have Polish butcher family, like from the top down, right? Grandparents, parents, the whole thing.
German, Austrian, on my mom's side, and then Irish, and apparently I'm French too on my dad's side. I just found that out like a few months ago. So
perfect. I'm French Canadian.
Oh,
I knew I was French growing up. Fun fact. And when my great grandma passed away, I found out that it was French Canadian, and I was kind of sad because I've had some poor experiences with French Canadian people who speak French. Some of the rudest people I've ever met in my life.
No way.
Yes.
Well, I did go to Paris once, but I feel it's one of those things where I didn't know the language. And I felt like if I knew the language, it would have been a little bit easier to communicate. But I do find that in Europe and even in Switzerland, people are just kind of blunt and they don't actually mean it to be rude. They just kind of are like, this is what's up, which is kind of nice. I mean,
straightforward.
It's like, straightforward. And then like, they're just not going to like, when you go out to eat and anywhere out here, it's like, hello, what do you want? Ba-ba-ba, how's the weather? Like, it's just a lot. And they're just honest and straight up. And I kind of like that. I mean, I'm from New York, so that's how we roll.
Yeah. But so Jersey, you grew up there and your family, so butchers.
Yeah. So my grandparents were butchers. They owned a butcher shop in my town of Harrington Park. And then my parents, they own a company called Pumping Solutions. That's like the biggest water pump and sales company in the tri-state area. They do all the water pumps and servicing for the skyscrapers. They sell pumps. My brother works there. My whole family has worked there at some point. They've like my grandparents, my grandma, me. I'm the only person who was like, sorry, I'm going to go do something else.
But still a business owner.
Yeah. Third generation business owner.
Yep.
Yeah.
Parents, like I asked you this, your mom, like, is, to your awareness, no digestive issues.
No, never. My mom has always had an amazing capacity to digest, like awesome stomach. Even my brother was pretty good up until recently. Now that he's a bit older, he's starting to get a little, get the bug. But my dad has always kind of been on my side of like having digestive issues.
Yeah. And your mom eats like Spam every day.
No, well, she did like when she was a kid growing up, like she had like sausage and like, they grew up from like the butcher shop. Like, literally we had sausage and bread and hot dogs and just a very like German diet. And now, I mean, they eat pretty good. Like they own their own business and they're doing very well. And I've been able to kind of like teach them, like
influence them.
Yeah. Like we were never like a big snack house. Like we never had food to eat in the house. Like we were very like, we're going to go get food for lunch and dinner, but we're not going to keep things on hand. So I was just the one getting all that stuff by myself. Like when I was outside the house, like when I'd go to other people's like
that's
pantries.
Really unique because like, I feel like that is very East Coast in general.
It is.
Because the way I grew up, like in the Midwest, we stockpiled everything. Like we had a like an 8-foot freezer.
Really?
Like deep freeze.
That's
like
crazy.
8 feet tall, big
and it was
door.
Like stocked all the time?
Oh.
What?
Stocked.
Really?
There was like, yeah.
That's crazy.
At one, there's a lot of backstory there, but like at one point, like genuinely, my family could have easily lived for 6 months without ever having to go to a grocery store, like other than for like produce.
That's crazy.
And like eggs.
That's so funny because like even when I go home now and I open the cabinet, it's like ketchup, mustard, pickles, butter, and like like we really honestly growing up, like food wasn't a large part of our family, even though we had the butcher shop.
Sure.
Like we never ate to like in large consumptions.
Mhm.
Even for Christmas and holidays, we would bring enough food that would feed everybody where we wouldn't even have leftovers. And then we maybe would like serve a bowl of Tostitos and like I would cut up like sausage and that would literally be it, or like blocks of cheese. Like, but I mean, small stuff. Like we did not have like a feast. On the other hand, like my husband, Joey, I just married into an Italian Greek family. And oh my gosh, I can't even tell you when I first started going to his house for dinner, I was like, oh my God, like I have never, like, we just never had a spread like that, you know? So it's been really interesting, like just seeing, you know, different cultures and how it blows my mind, like having that much food in the house at all times.
Yeah. Digestive health issues though. 7.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I just always, growing up, I remember as a little kid, I was very hyper focused on my stomach. Like I would be in the bathroom, like lifting up my shirt and just being like, my stomach feels weird. Like what is going on here? Like, I don't know. And it was, I think maybe it was a lot of anxiety at first. And then it kind of like started into like digestive issues, but I was always picking cheese off pizza. Like I, you know, was very weird around eating. Like I was very hyper fixated on certain things for a long period of time. Like my thing was white bread and turkey for, I don't even know, like 8 years of middle school. Like I never actually diversified my diet.
Any ideas where the anxiety originally came from?
I've always had anxiety. I'm a very hyper person, obviously. And I experience like emotions very intensely on all ends of the spectrum. So like I feel immense joy, obviously, I feel like immense joy, excitement. But then when I get into my little rabbit holes, like I can feel like just really intense anxiety. And I've also always been very hard on myself, which, and now that I'm older, I can look at my parents and my grandparents and we all have anxiety actually, like on my mom and my dad's side, we all just have underlying anxiety that we all have. And just sometimes it's for no reason. And I'll just be sitting here and I'm like, I think I'm having a panic attack, like for no reason at all. And sometimes so all of my emotions go to my stomach. If I'm excited, my stomach hurts. If I'm sad, my stomach hurts. And so it was hard for me as a kid to like decipher what was going on, because it was always like, oh, maybe it's just the food I'm eating. Like maybe it's just that. Like I was always trying to like blame things. But when you're a kid, you don't really like, I have anxiety. Like you're not going to say that, you know, you're just going to be like, my stomach hurts. And then that opens a portal into, you know, as you know, so many different things.
Yeah. So the whole purpose of this podcast, and I'm sure you're aware, is, you know, it's intentional health for women. We're here to educate people. And to give some context to some of the listeners is, you know, one of the first things when we talk about anxiety, we talk about Jenny's, you know, hyper awareness of her stomach. A lot of times with anxiety, stress, we can see lower levels of stomach acid. And so then what can in turn happen with extended periods of lower stomach acid, we can have the opportunity for overgrowth of opportunistic bacteria. Basically, there becomes an imbalance in the stomach. It's no longer a balance of good and bad. It's a higher threshold of bad bacteria, which can then lead to further digestive issues, which you've obviously experienced for a very long time in your life.
Yeah. That's a good point about the bacteria, because I totally have the flux, acid reflux, like random things. Eating a banana on an empty stomach will give me acid reflux. And also I was diagnosed with SIBO a bunch of times, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. Like 10 years ago, really before it was a thing, it was like my 8th naturopath who was like, have you heard of this? And I did the breath test, you know, took the antibiotic, and I was feeling good for maybe 12 days. And then what frustrated me is I went to all these naturopaths, all these doctors, and I was constantly like, look, I think it's my diet. I would love to talk about, you know, maybe food or like just metabolic stuff. And they don't receive that stuff. You know, they either want to give you a pill or they want to give you a powder. Like I find like that it's so funny. The medical doctors want to give you a pill. The naturopaths just want you to drink pea protein shakes or take all these supplements. And that's just like drinking sand. So add that to an already upset stomach, and now you're just trying to pass through stuff that's just really not even digestible, you know? So it's like really interesting. I was going kind of down 2 different rabbit holes. And I think in the end, I started developing even more problems because people were trying to fix me rather than really understand like what was going on.
Yeah. And so like when it comes to those things, we have to understand that it's a combination of all things, right? It's going to be a combination of lifestyle. It's going to be, what is your environment when you're eating your meal, right? So it's like, are you sitting down, calm, present with your meal, no phone, no distractions, like, first and foremost? Are you getting in daily walks and daily movements? Are you breathing only through your nose? Like, there's a lot of natural remedies that can be introduced, because a lot of times people, so like you said, acid reflux, a lot of people deal with acid reflux and they assume too much stomach acid, which is possible. But a lot of times, in your case, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth is low stomach acid. And the acid reflux is actually like a sign of lack of enough stomach acid to break down what you're consuming.
Yeah.
And so that's where we can get extended fullness as well, which I'm sure you've experienced many times in your life.
Oh, yeah.
Where food just kind of sits.
Yeah.
Heavy.
Literally just right there.
Yeah.
For hours.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so again, so not enough stomach acid to break down the food. You're experiencing the acid reflux, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And I think this is where a lot of things get missed with, like, I have the utmost respect for medical providers and their profession and their area of expertise, right? Because like I was listening to something the other day and it was funny, as someone interviewed the Stanford School of Medicine nutritional like doctor that does the training for the med students. He gets 4 hours on nutrition for them. 4.
Yeah. Doesn't surprise me.
It's not going to cover it. It's not going to cover it. It's not going to cut it.
Yeah.
And so it goes to, it's like, again, I respect Western medicine and what they can do. I got 20 extra years with my grandpa because of them for a multitude of reasons, but I'm not going to seek nutritional advice from them.
Yeah.
Now we get to the other side, we get to naturopaths, and again, great deal of respect for what they do, but they are gaining popularity in our society and culture every day because people are sick of Western medicine. They're sick of pills and medications and not getting to the root cause and ending up feeling worse in the long term. Then they're going to naturopaths, and I respect them and what they're doing, but a lot of times they're getting overrun so quickly. And then a lot of times their quality of care because of it is basically, you'll probably get an extended consult, maybe an hour, maybe 90 minutes.
Yeah.
They'll go through, an intake process, extensive lab work, and they'll be able to determine, they'll be like, okay, yep, you've got SIBO, you've got this, here's the protocol, here's the nutrition. And I think that was probably what was missing for you 8 years ago, is they maybe didn't have the nutritional piece for you.
Yeah.
Hey, we should avoid these foods while we're doing this protocol. This is the powder that, protein powder that you should use during this time frame. And we should go step by step through this. And a lot of times I see is like these protocols, they get underdosed. They're not getting enough touching base with their practitioner. So a lot of people will fall off the protocol for a week, or they'll go on vacation or whatever. And they'll, like you said, I'll feel better for 12 days, or I'll feel better for 90 days. And then all of a sudden it just doesn't, it falls through. They're not feeling well. You've got the brain fog, which I'm sure you've dealt with all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was interesting because the naturopaths were very willing to prescribe a protocol. They were very willing to take food out of my diet, but that was the problem. It was like, this is what we want you to do, 30 days, do this shake, take this pill, eat this diet. But then they're not there at the end of the 30 days to help you integrate food back into your diet.
Yep.
Or, actually, it's hard for a human being to sit in front of a person for 1 hour and tell them specifically what is going on. And for that person to be like, oh, I got it, because it's so complex. And for me, I went to probably 5 different naturopaths in a row.
Yeah.
And the first guy, he's like, follow the FODMAP diet,
yep.
which most people might think is really restrictive. But for me at the time, that was a huge list of food. I was like, holy crap, your girl can eat. This is crazy. Yeah. Because, I was so restricted that I was like, oh my God, I can eat this. But then I was still suffering. And because all these other issues they weren't looking at, right? Like my reproductive, or like my skeleton, even like, is my body sitting properly? Like, am I breathing through my nose, which is something that I have discovered in my life. I'm a mouth breather, and that my TMJ, like, it affects things, but they're not looking at that. So when I was still suffering, they're like, okay, well, let's take out more food. So I go from the FODMAP list down to 20 foods.
Sure.
And then I'm still not feeling great, but me saying I'm not feeling great isn't communicating it enough of what exactly is going on. So the naturopathic response is, okay, well, let's take out more foods. Let's maybe put you on a liquid diet to reset your gut completely. So, I mean, one doctor had me on, when I had SIBO, he put me on a 30-day elemental diet, which was literally a liquid diet. And I was 100 pounds, you know, like I'm literally withering away. And I don't know, like, now I can look back and be like, why would you prescribe someone to take out more food if she's that tiny? That itself could be why I was suffering. But I think the automatic response on the naturopath side is like elimination diet. But then there's no ever bringing it back. And that's kind of like,
right. There's not enough coaching on bringing it back. And that's where, like, as a functional health coach, like, and what I love that I've learned through the process is like walking people through this, but then walking them out of it.
And that's the most important part, is walking them out of it, or like teaching them, how do we live this life now? How do we make this fun and exciting? So you're not like me for 10 years sitting in the corner being like, I'm not normal. I can't eat normal. I'm going to be suffering like this forever. I'm restricted, when that wasn't what was, you know, that's not true. And nowadays I definitely avoid things because I know if I eat that, like, your girl is not going to be feeling good. But I have, my diet is insane now compared to what it was. Like, I was eating 4 foods at one point, like sweet potatoes, coconut oil, coconut butter, like pureed zucchini, and bone broth, like, for a very long time, because all these doctors were like, she's still sick. Like, let's just give you liquid, you know? And that's absolutely crazy. And that's happening to, so many people, like specifically women, because for whatever reason, we're always, I think in fitness, that also kind of like, you know, just pushes it a bit. Like, you're always in a restrictive mindset. You're always trying to take things out because you're like, I don't want to have those things. They make me feel good and I don't trust myself. So I'm going to eliminate. And, you know, but then we don't even know what to do with that after. And to be 23 and to eliminate everything out of your diet is like, you can't live on sweet potatoes forever, you know? And has been my biggest beef with people, the naturopaths that I paid, thousands of dollars to. And they end the protocol, and then they're the first ones to say, well, what didn't you do right? You know, like, what did you screw up? Like, where did you screw up? Because this is supposed to work. And it's like, okay, but what's working? Like, you know, like, what is the end goal? I'm supposed to disappear? I don't know. So, or I'm supposed to take vitamins forever and not understand how to breathe properly, how to eat properly, food pairing, drinking water while you're eating. All these things affect your digestive system. Sometimes it's like really easy fixes, and you don't have to spend 10 grand and get an MRI and go to the doctor to fix it, you know?
Yeah. If that's one thing that I'm super, super grateful for, is the program. You know, shout out to my mentor, Sam Miller and FNMS. If you're a coach, it's definitely a program that you should be involved in. And all that they do, because it really does, like, the most complex cases, it comes back to the basics over and over. Like, there's a time that we do need to get complex and deal with some heavy stuff for sure. But more often than not, it's creating autonomy in the long term of teaching you, is walking you through that protocol, walking you out of it, helping you create autonomy so you can be a functioning member of society without, like, these, you know, I genuinely believe that, given the current state of our nutrition, that everybody should be taking a multivitamin, high quality omegas, magnesium, and a vitamin D3, depending on the multivitamin that you're choosing, as a baseline, like, for everyone.
Yeah. Which is totally reasonable. But if you go to some naturopaths, I paid someone, I paid someone $3,000 once, and before I had to buy the supplements, I paid her $3,000 just to have a conversation.
Yep.
And I'll have to pull it up and show you what she wanted me to do, because it was insane. It was white rice, water chestnuts, sprouted almond butter, sprouted nuts, no meat, and then just a plethora of pills. And it wasn't like one multivitamin in the morning. It's like, no, 4 of these in the morning, 3 of those in the morning. And then in 2 hours, 2 of these, 3 of those. And I'm not even someone who likes to swallow pills. So, I'll swallow 1 or 2, but tell me to swallow 12 pills in the morning, I'm definitely not going to want to eat any food, because that's just like crazy.
Yeah.
And I think it's just important that we teach people like how to advocate for yourself and how to really be in tune with your body. So, am I talking to someone who's full of shit, or am I talking to somebody who actually knows what they're doing and I should trust this person? Because especially naturopaths, it's like, we don't really know yet, right? Because it is newer. And a lot of the times you're getting these people through, a friend. You're like, hey, yeah, she helped me, go to her. And it's really hard. You're just going to be all trusting, because, that's how we are in the medical field. We're all trusting. And now it's clear that we shouldn't be that way. And it's not like we should just get rid of it. It's like, no, just keep in mind that if you're going to go there, they only have a certain amount of solutions. And it's going to be, they either want to prescribe you something, they either want to put you through an x-ray machine. Like, they're not going to say, hey, did you walk this morning? Or do you drink water? Like, do you breathe through your nose? Do you meditate? Are you like, they just won't do that.
And that's where like the pieces, again, this is where, like I said, I have a great deal of respect for naturopaths, functional med practitioners. But I think that's a big piece that's missing, is exactly what you're saying, is the lifestyle that goes inside. Cause I'll be honest, like, there is a time and a place for the pills, like the protocols, like they can be necessary. Like if it's gotten to a place, it can be very necessary to have a time frame, 12 to 16, sometimes upwards of 20 weeks, depending on how bad the symptoms, et cetera, are. Like, I'm personally going through a protocol myself. And I will say, like, what's funny for me is I was relatively asymptomatic, all things considered, from like a digestive perspective for the most part. And all of a sudden though, like the nuance of like, all of a sudden there are improvements, and it can be a lot. It can be a lot to go through these protocols and take all the pills, but like knowing like what it does for me on the other side. And so I've walked a mile in your shoes. I've done it. I know what it's like. It's worth it. But again, like you said, I think there's just a big missing piece of the puzzle of like, hey, are you breathing through your nose? Are you meditating? Are you going to bed on time? Like, because I can give you the best protocol in the world, but if we don't fix your lifestyle that messed up your gut in the first place, which for you is literally going back to 7 years old. So what happened? You said, okay, your family has a history of anxiety that can be passed on to you. Okay. You have anxiety. Like, so it's like, we have to circle back all the way to there.
Yes.
And we need to work on all of the other lifestyle things along with the protocol if we have any hopes of this actually sticking and actually working.
1,000%. And I think like with females too, we're prone to gravitate towards thinness. And it's not, it's not even like it's on purpose. It's just one of those things where it's like, wow, I'm bloated. And then you go through protocol and then you feel a little bit flatter and you're like, I'm looking hot. And then it almost becomes this thing of like the restriction becomes fun, and and then it fuels.
Because you're like, I want to look like that again, or I want to feel like that again. I felt great.
I felt
great when I did this.
Yeah. And I've come to discover that like my skinniness was not healthy at all. And I think a lot with like restriction and stuff like that, and these protocols, we totally like we have to just bring that up. Like when we start to restrict ourselves, it's like we're restricting ourselves to feel better for health. We're not trying to lose weight and be skinny, because if we can just kind of like figure that out mentally, I think for me looking back, I realized I went from a super processed diet. I went to college and then I was super restricted. Like I never filled my body with delicious, nutritious foods until later in my life when I was like just why I'm like, I feel horrible. I'm like torturing myself because I was just constantly depleting myself of everything.
Yeah.
And doctors being like, yeah, good job.
Great job.
I mean,
While
literally, they're like, you're so awesome. Like,
we're creating nutrient deficiencies.
Yeah.
Yay.
Like, I can't even tell you how many doctors are like, you're my best student, because I would follow every protocol to the T, you know? And I think that there's so many women out there who are like me, who are type A, anxiety, who love a fucking roadmap.
Yeah.
Like, you give me a roadmap, I'm gonna do it. Like, there's no, and
I'm
I'll
coloring
do that
inside of the lines.
Yeah. And I'll do it for 30 days. I'll do it for 35. Like, and that's my mentality.
Yeah.
And I have to be really, really careful with that, because it's just such a slippery slope. Because when you do, you know, when you get skinny, you get some abs, you start feeling good. And then, you know, we see it on Instagram. It's celebrated. It's, you know, everyone's like, wow, you look so good. I wish I couldn't eat. And it's like, what?
I wish I couldn't eat.
You know,
I wish
wild.
I could be disciplined,
like,
aka not eat like you.
Yeah, you know, and then you like, honestly, like looking back on it, it's like people didn't really know like how much stress I had about every single morsel of food that went into my mouth. It was chronic, constant food phobias. It wasn't even like a I want to be skinny type of mentality. It was, I am so scared to eat because everyone has made me terrified of certain foods that I now am trying to figure out, like literally how I can just eat something and then not feel like it's going to kill me. I'm going to be bloated. And then I've come to discover like being bloated is also normal. When you eat food, like you're going to feel like you just ate food. Like you don't just eat food and then you're like, like, you know, like you're consumed, like your body's going to work. Like we have to be in tune with that. Like it is what it is, you know? And women, we get our periods, we get bloated, like our body, our weight fluctuates. Sometimes we carry more water. If you're going to eat a little bit more salt, you're going to carry water. So I think when we go on these protocols, we are trying to chase like perfectionism, but we don't even know what it looks like. And it's like, where does it end? You know, like what is perfect? Like, what is that thing?
Right.
You know, it's just really interesting to like, just like take a step back and be like, what is the most optimal? Like now I feel I'm the most optimal ever. I take a multivitamin and like what you said, like that's basically it. And then I eat whatever calls me. Like I'm the most free person now. But before I was a little bit of a lunatic, like, you know, and I think that's fine, but I just think it's something interesting. Like anybody who's going through that right now, like just be careful because it can be really easy to get in that cycle and then to be every morning checking MyFitnessPal or being like, you know, literally, I know so many girls that journal everything that they eat, or they journaled every morsel of food that they ate for many, many years. Yeah. And that's also kind of not okay, you know, like the hyperfixation on the perfectionism of it. And so yeah, I think it's a slippery slope. Like when you're like, I'm going to heal myself. And it's like, okay, well, let's like figure out what that really, really looks like for you. Like, do you want to be able to go on dates and have a good time? Like, do you want to be able to read a menu and not be terrified? Or like, what really do you want? Because sometimes like when you're like me, when you're super really into it, you know, you're spending a lot of alone time and you're cooking meals at home and you don't know how to interact, and it could be kind of scary, you know?
Yeah. Fast. I think this is a great inlay of like early 20s. You worked for a big health and fitness company.
Yeah. For a gym. Yeah. I was a personal trainer.
12-week transformations.
Yeah.
Walk me through that. Cause you like.
So I should never have become a personal trainer at all. Like I was hot off of my first complete burnout mental breakdown. I was living in Hollywood. I moved there when I was 20 by myself to work in Hollywood in PR. And again, type A person, you show me the way to perfection, I will do it times a million. And I just lost all this weight. Like I just really was just getting eaten alive. And my parents were like, you're 20, you're coming home. And so they moved me back to New Jersey, and I got a job at a local gym as a personal trainer. And honestly, I got the job because I wanted it for myself at the time. Like I just selfishly, I was like, this would be good for me. I'll learn how to eat properly. I'll learn how to lift. And just unfortunately, it was the time of life where everybody, and I think there's the whole fitness industry, I don't think it was like specific to that gym. It was all about weight loss. It was all about limiting your diet, following a certain protocol. Like the bodybuilding scene was huge there, like bikini body diet. My whole Instagram was bodybuilder. I legitimately ate a bodybuilding diet for almost 5 years straight. Like I just, shredded, but like I did not navigate off of that. And working at that gym, it was really eye-opening because I was working with people who were really metabolically unhealthy, older in life, overweight, just not even to their own detriment. They were just they're hard workers, like people who, commuting from New Jersey to New York every day, very high paying individuals, a lot of drinkers, just because that's what the scene is. It's just very casual to drink all the time over there. And me being someone who didn't drink, like I felt like the loser, it's just kind of funny looking back. I was like, I had it the right way, but I just didn't feel like I wanted to do that. And that gym, again, we had this map of like, here's how to lose weight. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do it because, I was 117 pounds. I had no weight to lose. But again, here's a freaking, here's a guideline.
But here's a plan.
Yeah, here's a plan. Let's do it. Because it was easier for my brain to follow something than to just do it by myself.
Yeah.
So together, I'm like helping people lose weight. I'm also really, really skinny and I'm working out. I'm doing Pilates sessions every day from 5 a.m. till noon. Then I'm working out for 3 hours. I was competing for Spartan races. I would run like 5 miles a day and lift weights, then teach Pilates until 8 p.m. at night. And I was eating 1,200 calories. That's it. Maybe 1,200 calories. Like I would have a rice cake and I carried a food scale everywhere I went. Everywhere I went, everything was weighed. I had a little tablespoon that I'd keep in my bag and I would literally scoop almond butter and slice the top off and just eat it out of the tablespoon. I wouldn't even smear it on eat the rice cake dry, and because that's what we were all doing, men and women alike in there. We were all doing that. Like there was no mindset of growing and filling your body with food and lifting. It was push yourself to the most intense, highest capacity and then starve yourself. And that became my life cycle. And just automatically, because you put more food in front of me and I'd be like, what? I don't do that. I would eat 7 meals a day, pre-port 2.5 hours in between. Every second I'd finish that snack and I could not wait for the next snack to come. And I was like, oh my God. And I'd be thinking about it. I'd be thinking about what specifically I had to eat and how it would affect me. And my digestive system just tanked during this time. Like, obviously, I would have such insane gas pains that I would have to lay down in the bathroom and I couldn't even stand up straight. And I was having panic attacks. I was 4% body fat. I was crazy. It was like, I was basically competition ready for like 6 months. And, no one ever ever really said it. Like there was one woman who was like, yeah, you're looking kind of skinny. I don't know if that's right. I was like, I don't know. Like everyone seems to be applauding me about it in here. So and then it wasn't really until I left that gym and just moved on and started to work in the food industry where I was able to just kind of like, my fears around food just got better, like within working with it. Like I was able, it's kind of like exposure therapy. I'm like, let me just like hang around with food so I can like get used to being around it. And then I was hanging out with more guys in my life too, who were just, men are massive eaters. So they were always like, you got to eat, girl. And I'd be like, what, but, it was really interesting. And it's funny because a lot of the people that I work with, we all kind of have my mentality now of like just freedom and eat and then lift heavy and still work out, but fuel yourself because that's everything. Like you can't move your car can't move without any gas in it or whatever that metaphor is. Like it's so true.
It's it's funny that you like the demographic that you were working with reminds me of a client I work with. She East Coast chiropractor, very successful and has used like a GLP-1 recently that's helped her out. And as I've gone through like her nutrition log over and over again, week over week with her, like it's taken some time. And it's like, I finally kind of came to a point where I was like looking at her behavior, I was like looking at her nutrition and I'm just like, hey, like you're not eating enough. And she was just dumbfounded. I'm like, you're not eating enough. And she's like, well, what do you mean? My goal is weight loss and you know this and we have weight to lose. And I was like, yes, you do. But I was like, you're not eating enough right now, day to day, to keep you satiated enough to avoid making poor decisions in your nutrition.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I need you to eat more. You're still going to be in a deficit. You can still lose weight. And sure enough, it was really funny is like, I think a lot of people, and I really like hope this drives home for the audience, is like, if every single day you're trudging like through mud and you barely have energy to work out, you're struggling to sleep, you may want to relook at and like you've been dieting for a long time and it's just not moving.
Yeah.
You need to relook at your nutrition and you need to be realistic. Like, hey, am I in too deep of a deficit? Because what I noticed with her is like, especially if she missed a meal on the calories that she was on, the preceding 24 to 36 hours, the nutritional choices became poorer and poorer.
Yep.
And it wasn't necessarily that she was going over in calories. And don't get me wrong, there was definitely times that happens because like a deficit is a deficit, right? But nutrition quality also matters. And you can definitely have like inflammation and other issues. And for her, when we increased her food, magically, she had more energy to work out. Magically, she nailed her step goal and she dropped 5 pounds in 1 week.
Yeah.
Eating more food.
Yeah.
But was still in a deficit.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's so important because like to circle back to you, it's like not everybody is as type A and is willing to follow the plan to a T like you were to the point of being 4%. Like a lot of people need some really big intrinsic motivators to do something like that. But that in of itself is like, I'm guessing during that time frame, you probably lost your menstrual cycle.
Oh yeah. I didn't have it for almost 10 years, but I lost it actually before that. And it's always been, my menstrual cycle has never been right. Like I got it when I was 13 and within 6 months I was put on birth control. And I mean, it wasn't sexually active. It was just like my doctor was like, this is what we do. So I was like, and everybody in my high school was on birth control. Like everyone, it was just, it is what it is. Yep. And I don't know, like I'm like a born conspiracy theorist. Like, I don't know what it is. Like in my brain, I don't believe anybody. I think it's like my grandma was like that. So I just always have had a healthy dose of like, I don't know. And as like I got older, I'm just taking this thing and every day I would take it. I'm just like, I don't like this. Like I just wasn't vibing with it. Mm-hmm. And I never actually got my period. I literally never bought tampons all through college, not even one time. And I was on birth control the whole time and I never got it. And I'd go to my OBGYN and she'd be like, no, it's fine. Like I wouldn't worry about it. And, it was just like, okay. And this is when I was like, I've always been thin, but I wasn't like super duper thin. Like when I got super thin was after college, but in college it was already starting. And then I think I actually got off of it when I was 20 and just by myself. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I didn't tell anybody. I was like, I'm just not doing it. And I didn't realize how much that would affect me. Like mentally, emotionally, that actually timed up with my first burnout. Like my first mental breakdown in LA was literally 2 months after I stopped taking birth control. And now looking back, I'm able to connect the dots. But during that time, I wasn't going to connect those dots. Like I just thought I just wasn't taking birth control. Because again, like when you're a girl, you're not told anything about this stuff. Like especially when you're younger and you're taking it, you're specifically, they're like, it's birth control, you won't get pregnant, but they don't tell you that it changes the chemistry of your body. And sometimes when you're on it, you could be suicidal, you can be depressed, you could be feeling all these crazy emotions, or you're just angry and you don't know why.
Attracted to more feminine men.
Yeah. And then, but when you get off of it, you're like, I can't even describe it. It's like you get like, sometimes you're just like hanging out and then you're just like, you feel this like shit building up inside of you. And you're like, what is this? Like, why do I want to kill everybody? Like, what is happening? And sometimes you wake up angry, which is someone who's like a very happy, bubbly person. I was like, what's going on in my life? Like, I thought it was like me or something, or I was like always like trying to point fingers at things that were going on, but never was I like, my hormones are a mess because I'm starving, skinny, and I was on birth control for 10 years. And, like literally no one said that to me. Like, it was all through my own independent studies and reaching out to, researching and like talking to open-minded people where I finally was able to like connect the dots. Yeah. But yeah, I actually got my period back last year, like only a couple months ago, which has been a whole other journey. Just having it back for the first time, like me and my husband, we're like, I love him because some days I wake up and he's like, oh shit, like I just, I'm a demon. I am a demon, and I don't even know where it comes from. And it's so funny. Sometimes I'm like actually having an out of body experience. I'll be having like a panic attack, and I'm watching myself have this panic attack. I'm like, what are you doing, girl? Like, get it together. But like, I literally can't. And I just have to like let it out. But I'd rather be this way now and learning how to properly cope with my emotions and how to actually like be in touch with what my body's going through. Because before, when I wasn't getting my period, I would go run 12 miles every single day, lift weights, push it. There was no touching like that feminine side of me being like, maybe I need to relax today, or maybe I need to breathe, go for a walk. Like, there was none of that in my life. Yeah. And now I'm so proud of myself. Like, I could like crush it, or I'd be like, I'm just going to go for a walk today, or I'll do some yoga. That's actually a really great and interesting point. Like, I feel like, so with birth control, like it's now been linked to multiple nutrient deficiencies, gut dysbiosis. 1 in 4 women in America that are on birth control are on an SSRI. Oh, I know that. Yeah. Attracted to more feminine males, right? And then, to your point, I think that brings up a really great point of something that I would imagine is going to come up in research in the next 10 to 15 years, hopefully sooner, is given your personality type, being on birth control is like, I think we all know a woman like that who is very type A and is like, just can do like the unthinkable, right? Yeah. Run 12 miles, work out, run and operate a company. Yeah. And like you said, is not in touch with their feminine side at all. Like they just do not have that feminine nurturing. And, you mentioned conspiracy theory. I think we had coffee before this, sit down for this podcast. It's like we vibe on a lot of these things. Is like, we're seeing problems in our society and culture today between men and women in these issues of like this very, very type A alpha female. And like, they're like, well, where are all the good men? It's like, well, like, what do you need us for? Yeah. No, so true. I don't know what it is. Like, I guess I don't even know if I was nurturing. I'm like trying to like stand up for myself, but I don't think I was. Like, because I joke all the time. Like, I felt like a dude because I was lifting with, there was 9 guys in the gym and me, and I would rip it with them. And I was like a soldier. I'd get up every day at 4:30 with doing push-ups. I'd take a cold shower. I'd hit the gym. Like, I was powerlifting with like football players. I was, just eating like, and I wasn't in touch with I'm very, very creative, but I wasn't really able to like be in my creative side because I was in this like military mode. And it's so true. Like, I was literally, just ripping life. Like, and people would be like, damn, like, how are you doing that? And I was like, I don't even feel like this is hard. I actually think I could do more. Like, which is why I was like, okay, we're going to run a 5K. Nah, we're going to run 18 miles. And now it's a Spartan race. And now it's like put weight on my back. It's like, now I'm running up mountains and I'm putting books in a backpack. Like, I was doing crazy stuff. And I had like no off switch. Like, I just didn't feel like I needed to have it. Like, I just literally felt like a superhuman. Yeah. And I still feel like a superhuman, but now my body tells me like once a month for 3 or 4 days, like I literally can't. And it's just like, cause my body's like, we're working already doing these other things, like we're going through this cycle. Like we need all this energy for that. Yeah. But before, when I wasn't getting my period, I just had unreal amounts of energy. Yeah. Like, it was crazy. And so it's been, for me, it's actually been humbling. And I think maybe a lot of other women probably feel this way. Like I see it all the time. Super athletes like I was, who end up getting their periods again, you almost feel guilty, and you feel like, oh, it's not I'm not working hard enough, or maybe I'm eating more, or oh my God, I gained weight. And you actually feel guilty about it. You feel guilty because your body's working properly. And that's not good. And I don't know why I had that at all. Like, I don't know why that was like my natural reset of being like, I don't get my period, I'm awesome. Like, it's not healthy. It's literally not healthy at all.
I think a lot of women do that. I think I've got as a coach who's coached women for a decade almost now, like there's a lot of women throughout the years that I've met that are they're like, yeah, I don't have my period. And like they're proud of it.
I was like, yeah, this is awesome. I don't have to buy tampons. Like, this is dope. Like, never was I like, this is going to, number one, maybe impact my fertility, or maybe this is affecting my whole life. Like, and then the second, I see it all the time when girls get their period back, they are like, oh my God, I'm fat now. Or I'm not shredded because I just did bodybuilding for 6 years. Yeah. And I put myself in such a low percentage that I literally, my body cannot function properly. Right. But yeah, there's like weird guilt around it. And it's so odd. And I think like the point that you said about like the relationships and the nurturing side, for me, there was no space for relationships then, like at all. Like, it wasn't even like, oh, this guy sucks. It was just, I wasn't even about it. Like, no. I was so in this superhuman, like Superman mode. Like, I was just crushing it, and I just didn't want it. Like, I just didn't, I didn't want it. And then it's so funny. Like, once I met my husband, that's actually after a year and a half of being in a relationship is when I got my period back, and I don't even know, like, I think maybe it's because I did gain weight. Like, now I don't even know how much I weigh. I don't weigh myself. Like, I don't care. Sure. Like, I don't, whatever. But I think it was a combination of things. I think like it was slowing down. It was changing my life. It was pulling myself out of stress. It was like playing with my femininity, like creativity, and all that stuff. And
to be fair, I think from an outside looking in and hearing the little bit that I've learned about you and your husband is very seemingly in touch with like his masculine side, leadership, and kind of, I don't want to say put you in your place, but says, hey, like just sit down. I've got this.
Yeah. Yes.
Which allows you to rest, to sit back, to relax, and to shift into that. How long have you guys been together?
4 years.
4 years. And when did you come off birth control?
When I was 20. So like I'm 29 now.
Oh,
like
okay. Yeah. So you were off birth control.
Oh yeah.
But you never had it back.
I never got it back even after that. And I did 2 rounds of progesterone. They tried to jumpstart it and I still didn't get it. Yeah. And like, it was crazy. They were like, oh, this is weird. I had a doctor literally ask me once if I had a uterus. I was like, I think I do. Like, I think I would know if I didn't. But yeah, it was weird. But you're so right. Like I lived alone almost my whole adult life, like from 20 till when I met Joey. Sure. I didn't have any roommates, and I was working. I got a lot of really like, director level jobs at a young age. Yeah. So I was really working all the time, and I was cooking every single meal for myself, and I was saving money. I was doing really well. Like I was, but I didn't have any, like you said, relaxing. I didn't have anyone to like kind of like slow me down. Yeah. And with him, he's super masculine, but it's funny. We're both very masculine and feminine. Like we both can kind of like take, like, that's why I love him, is we're just on both ends of the spectrum. Like he's super masculine, but he's also very emotional. And that's why he's such a beautiful person. Mm-hmm. But like he literally will be like, sit down, don't move. I will cook. I'm going to make sure that you are fed. You are drinking water. I will carry your things. And it's so funny. In the beginning, I was like, I hate this. I was like, I'm a strong, independent woman. I don't need no man. And then it was like, oh, wait, this is nice. Mm-hmm. And then I find like a lot of my friends that I talk to who have boyfriends or fiancés, a big fighting factor for women like me who are independent business owners, type A, strong, athletic. Like it's allowing the man to just do his thing every now and then. Like, it's not like you have to like give everything up and be like, I don't believe in women's rights anymore. It's like, no, like he can pull some of the slack. Like he
Mhm.
can create a space where I can be creative and feminine and free.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's why I was able to start my business, because he just created this safe space for me. He was like,
Right.
we're going to do this together. Go do your thing. I got this, you know, and then same with me. I'm like, go do your thing. I got this.
Yep.
And it became such a symbiotic relationship that like, even with my business, like there were certain things that I was never able to grasp
Mhm.
that he was like, oh, duh,
Yeah.
boom. And I was like, whoa, I was never going to get there. That's
Mhm.
crazy. And then I'm kind of like the creative and the dreamer and the, like, I can create, I mean, anything. I'm constantly coming up with ideas, but so much so that sometimes I'm like my ADHD brain is going crazy. And then
Mhm.
Joey's the one who's like, okay, reel it in. Here's
Yep.
what we're going to do. He puts it on paper. He like, you know, sets monetary goals, stuff that like for me it's really hard to do.
Yeah.
So it's like really beautiful to be able to like, to like relax a bit and like know, okay, this is what I can do. This is what I can't do. This is what I need your help with. And like, this is how we're going to like work together to like, just for the greater cause of making us both feel good, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the duality, right? Of a really good relationship is, you know, for, you know, even the most masculine men at the end of the day, there are days that we want to like lay our armor at the door and we want to like cuddle up in your lap and like show that feminine side of ourselves to like let that armor off and not have to do those like we will, but and I think the same thing. So it's super cool to hear that. You know, I think we spoke about this when we had coffee. Is like I'm very aware like my success is limited while I'm alone.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm in a season of being single and I'm very aware of like that like I can accomplish a lot on my own and there's great achievements and there's levels of that I can continue to pursue, but I know that that is limited being alone. That I know that there's levels that, and I'm sure you would agree with that statement, is there is levels that you have reached that you would have never reached had you not met your husband when you did, et cetera, and be where you are currently.
Literally Earth Sugar would not exist because I wanted to do this company for 10 years. Like
Mhm.
I was the kid in middle school and high school screaming about seed oils and processed foods. And everyone was like, you're crazy, go away. And now, you know, it's all over the news. But like I said it first. But no, like I literally wanted to do this for 10 years.
Mhm.
And I was in a cycle of like, I can't even tell you, my brain is unreal. I dream out throughout the night. I go to another planet. I'm like coming up with constant business ideas, book ideas, like everything. And Joey, like, he was like, whoa, 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 slow down, like, stop
Mhm.
it. Like, I can help you here. And,
Yeah.
and I really needed that because I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't. And so, and like for me, yeah. And also it's not worth it. It was so much more fun having
Yeah.
someone to share it with
Yep.
because not everybody has supportive parents. Not everybody has friends. I had friends that weren't around me. I moved to Arizona and I didn't know anybody. So I met Joey and he was the only person that I knew. And so us together, you know, he works from home, being in my apartment every day, talking everything through, like, I hope that everybody has a chance to meet somebody in their life like that because it's the coolest fucking thing
Mhm.
ever to just be like, I have a crazy idea. And him being like, send it. And then me being like, blah. And he's like, okay, you know, like, and it's so beautiful because you see in big corporations, like, you have a marketing team, you have a finance team, like you need a team to grow. Like, you know, you can do things by yourself and sure, but you get to a point where you're like, how can I possibly make bars, do social media, code my website, do my financing, do my it just gets crazy. And then you limit yourself. You're like, I physically can't make more money because I'm doing everying. And you have
reach your bandwidth.
Yeah, you reach your bandwidth and you have to figure out like, okay, like what do I need help with? What can I delegate? You know, like who can I go to get to point A to point B? Because, you know, what we were talking about before, like being a $250,000 company to $1 million company and then beyond, like those might all require different people to help you get there because it's a total different way of thinking. Yeah. Like I've never owned a $10 million company. Yeah. So, you know, and I don't know who I'm going to need to help at that, like from that point. But I do find that like, it's interesting, like men and women, like, and not saying that women can't do everything because they can for sure. But I think men, specifically my husband, doesn't have much emotion around things that like I do.
Mhm.
And it's just, sometimes it's just so good. Like when I'm having a problem about something and I'm taking it personally and I go to him and he hits me with the most like mortgage finance blunt answer. I'm like, it, and I'm like offended by it, but
Yep.
he's right. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I'm like, you're right. Like I shouldn't be as worked up about this.
Yep.
And it's really nice to be able to have that because, you know, sometimes you could be your own worst enemy by just thinking that I'm just going to think myself out of these problems. And sometimes, like for me at least, you think so much about stuff that you just like freeze. And then
Yeah.
you're like, I'm not going to make any choices now. I'm just
No.
going to, you know?
100%. I mean, and that's where the value really does come in. And like, I already brought it up, is just like, I know that until I find, my partner in life, right? My wife, like I am limiting my success. Period.
And well, that depends on what your version of success is, right?
Yeah.
You know, because that's really important for people to understand of like, especially when you start a business, what do you want? Like, do you want to have employees? Do you want to have a partner? Do you want to do it all by yourself? Because if you do want to do it all by yourself, that's fine. But just understand that that dynamic is going to be different than building, a corporation or having 6, 7 people on your team, and you have to know what that looks like going in because, it's that will just define how you feel about everything. Like knowing like, what is my goal?
Right.
And it's fine if you reset that and maybe you try one thing and you're like, oh wait, I hate this. Because I see all the time people start their own business and they're like, I hate people. I don't want employees anymore. And then they, kind of retract and then go the solo route. Not my speed because I love people.
Yeah.
And I love the challenge that people present me. I think that's what it means to be a human being. I just like, I don't want to do anything alone.
I think that's a great point. I want to circle back to one thing, but then I want to go into that is you said something is it's not that women can't do everything, right? But I think at the same time, like, is like, why? Why do you want to do everything? Because there's a lot of things that women are naturally good at that I've learned the hard way that there's like some things that I just like, it's not that I can't do them because I can. Like I grew up in a home, like my mom taught me how to cook, how to clean, how to do my own laundry, like iron, etc. Like I know how to do all the quote unquote womanly things around a home to like make it a home. I can cook a mean meal. But does that mean I learned the hard way? Does that mean I want to do it every single day, every single meal, that I am the sole person responsible in the household to do that? No. It's just not in my nature. Like it gets to a point where it feels weird. So I think it's like for women, it's like you can do everything and there's no one telling you that you can't. And I see women do it all the time, but I also see what it does. I've seen the long-term damage that it does. And that at the end of the day, a lot of women, they end up discovering at some point or another that they aren't truly happy or fulfilled.
Yeah. But I think like too, like some women, if they're homemakers, I see it a lot. Like they're like, I just want to work at home and take care of my kids. Like they're doing that on such a high level. That's totally different than like, I'm just, cooking a couple meals and cleaning. They're like that house, I want to live there.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be your child.
Yes.
Like that shit's
Yes.
awesome. Like you're like, this mom is like making like loaves of bread every morning. Like,
sourdough every day.
It's on a whole different level.
Yeah.
And that I think is fantastic. But like, I agree with you. Like me and Joey have a very symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
We both do everything together.
And that's probably never going to be you. You're probably never going to be like sourdough every day.
But for example, like I think, look at my parents, like my mom works. My mom has always worked. I think she only took a year off or something with me. And then mostly as a kid, I was either alone or with my grandparents. And so I grew up watching my mom work, kick ass, and be an awesome mother. And so for me growing up, like I didn't really have that kind of mentality of like, I want to be work at home all the time. But then on the other hand, like Joey's mom, she's amazing, total badass. But then she was always home when Joey was growing up. So I think Joey spent a lot of time with his mom, and he kind of has this mentality, like he's the first one to be like, Jenny, you didn't fold your clothes. Like, he's almost like that, which is so interesting because he's super masculine, but then he has more of the homemaking side that I do. And it's been really kind of fun, like just challenging those roles. But at the same time, like at the end of the day, like, we would both hate having to do that all by ourselves, because that's just not how we do things. And like we agreed upon on our relationship, like this is how we want to do things. But I do agree, like some women, if it's not agreed upon that they want to do that, it does create resentment. Or if like if you have to give up your job, and then you have to do something and it really wasn't a part of your plan, like that's upsetting and annoying. But like I don't know, I think like everyone is super different, and it's just really interesting. And I think it does affect, like I think like your parent dynamic really affects. Like what was your parent dynamic? Like did you say you grew up with your mom mostly, right? Yeah.
So my parents divorced when I was 10. Both remarried 2 years later. And given the situation, for numerous reasons, my mom was very masculine. Very. Don't get me wrong. She was also very motherly, very nurturing. We had dinner every single night at 5:30. But there was definitely like a very masculine side to her. And like learning what I've learned, coaching women for a decade, being in this space for as long as I have, like there was definitely a lot of pieces of my mom that I know at the end of the day, like she was very unhappy because she had to do things that weren't in her nature. She did them because they needed to be done, and she did it with a smile, and she was very motherly and nurturing. But I think like if, hindsight 2020 and you could snap a finger, like she would have had a very different life.
Totally.
And led it a very different way.
And so that obviously, I think, made you more masculine, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, first of all, I have to protect my mom. And then I never want to see a woman have to go through that again, And like on my side, I grew up so my parents are together, absolutely obsessed with each other. So in love, it's beautiful. Like really, really, it's cool. They work together. They built a business together. They golf together. Like they're the coolest. And my dad always said that he never wanted my mom to have to stay at home, cook, clean at all. So even like back in the day when we didn't really have money, like we always had a cleaning lady, like we always had people doing those things, or he would take her out to dinner because he just never felt like she had to do that, but it was interesting because my dad, like my grandma was basically a single mom, but my dad was mostly raised by his grandma because my grandma was like me, like she was just out in the streets doing her thing, like kicking ass and taking names. So and she, so it's interesting. But my like I had that mentality of like, and I think that's why I'm like, Joey, I don't need to fold my clothes. Like my dad said I don't have to do that. And he'll still poke me. But it's kind of interesting, like, because, that for you, you're like, I want to take care of women and I want to protect them. So you're looking for a certain type of a female who's going to enjoy that.
Yeah.
Who's going to appreciate that.
To be fair, like I've discovered that, like, I think there's like, when I hear about you and Joey, like there's a duality to it of like, I would definitely appreciate a woman cooking me a meal, 100%. But I would never expect like a 1950s wife, like to stay home, to do the sourdough, to do all those things. I think it's very much so like when I think of like collaborative of like, hey, like I'll cook dinner tonight, like you can cook dinner tomorrow, and then I'll take you to date night, like so you don't have to cook or worry about it, like very much so. If I were to meet someone like that, would I have a huge issue with it? Probably not. But I think to a degree, like given where I'm at in my life, like I think that they would have to be relatively successful on their own right now in their own respect. Like I am not in a position to just be like, yeah, go ahead, take a load off. You're good. I'm going to take care of you today.
Here's my credit card.
Yeah, like ship it. So yeah, I mean, I think there was definitely a moment where I thought that that's what I wanted, but I don't. I think it would be very weird.
It is weird. I think it's, I mean, I don't know if it's weird. It really depends. Like if you're making millions of dollars, like sure, all day. But at the same time, I'm just somebody who has so much ambition. It's like overflowing constantly. Yeah. And Joey knows that about me. And it's like why I love him is he's like, this girl is on fire. I'm going to let her run around like a maniac and I'm just going to keep it together and I'm going to be growing. Like he's like from the moment I met him, he wanted to put me in a house. He wanted to be able to, he wants to be able to support us.
Yes.
He doesn't have to, but he wants, like, I make money, I do great, but he like wants to be able to be like, no, but I can do it.
Yeah.
Which I think is adorable. And I think like, it's just really cool that he has that mentality, but that's, you know, not everyone has to be that way.
I think that's the same thing. Like I've like recently been seeing someone that like literally needs nothing from me. Nothing. Ever. And I have the same thought process of like, cool, that's great. Like super proud of you. Congratulations. Amazing. But where I want to take my life, my career, my company, etc., like I want to get to a point, like if this goes to that place, I want that to be fun, whatever. We don't need it. It's cool. It's great. You don't ever have to stop. But like, very much so like your husband. I want to be like, here's your house. Everything's paid for. It's taken care of. I don't need it. That's extra for
vacations,
whatever
you want to buy,
and investments in life.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's not even saying that like, I'm not going to maybe build a company that's larger than what he's doing. It's not even about that.
No.
It's literally not even like a numbers game.
Yeah.
It's literally just like me knowing how to love him and for him to like, when I see him being masculine and crushing it and he's doing so amazing at work right now, like I just want to keep fanning that fire.
Yes.
And I don't even care. Like if it was like he was making 20,000 a year or a million, like I don't even care what the number is, but that confidence that he has and that like his like how safe I feel with him all the time, you know, and not even like feeling safe like he's going to beat someone up, but just knowing that like if anything happens in this world, I can go to my husband and he got it. He's got it. Like, and it's so like, he's only showed that to be true. Like whenever I'm like, I can't paperwork, he's like, oh, give it to me. Boom, done. I'm like, he's literally a magician. Like, and I think like, for men in this society, we sometimes forget how much responsibility that they have. Like my dad, for example, my dad is amazing. He is the coolest guy. Not only is he like personable and fun, like literally he walks into a room and everyone's like, John, like he's amazing, but he has a huge company. He has so many employees. They all rely on him to live, to feed their families. Like recently he just gave his employee who just beat cancer a free vacation to Hawaii for 10 days. Like who does that, you know? And like for me as a kid growing up, I will admit like I was hard on him sometimes because I was like, why aren't you emotionally available for me? Meanwhile, he's taking care of absolutely everything. And I think like we all have to take a step back and, you know, yeah, maybe sometimes men could be a little blunt or maybe they're not emotional in the way that we like want it to be immediately on paper, but we have to have a little bit of, you know, compassion around the fact that like, yeah, I know like me growing up, no one put that stuff on me. Like I didn't have to buy a house and take care of people. I'm not going to be the protector. If someone is intruding the house, I'm going to be like, here's the bat. Like, I'm not going downstairs, you know? And I think we just have to be aware of those things that if you're a person who desires a masculine figure in your life, you also just have to be, you know, you have to be more compassionate about like what that actually means and like that responsibility and just showing love in the way that makes them feel like, fuck yeah, you know, like I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think the biggest thing, and
we talked about this when we had coffee, is men need to be respected.
Yeah. Respected. And I think everyone needs to be respected, but also just, I think compassion is the word of being like, when you see a guy, because I think the automatic default is like, when you see a man who's like masculine and he's intense and all these things, we just want to hate on that sometimes. Like the society wants to hate on that. And it's like, why? Why are we hating on that? Like they are literally going to war. They are literally building corporations. They are very important to society just as much as women are. Like it is literally a symbiotic relationship. Like that's why this exists. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't think that we should shit on masculinity at all. No. I also don't think it's wrong for a guy to be a little bit more feminine, but I think it depends on when you're mating, like what do you want?
It depends on the context. I think there's a place for both, like right from both sexes to a certain degree, but I think we've lost a lot of sight of that. We've lost a lot of sight of like, what are our appropriate roles? And it's like, there's things that like, why do I want to be good at those things?
It's like,
because like you, exactly like you said, there's a lot of things that men are really, really good at. Can women do them? Yes. But why does she need to?
Yeah.
And the same for men. Men can be really, really good at some of these things, but why does he need to? Because there is that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Of a man and a woman coming together.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like interesting because society has been interesting lately. and I love it. And I'm also like, meh, because I love the fact that people are being super individual right now. And there is a total spectrum of what you can be. Yeah. I am the definition of you can be anything you want. I am a walking contradiction. I sign up for everything. Like I literally do it all.
Right.
But I think like we have forgotten that underneath society, underneath what we learn in our environments, there is something inside of us that has programmed us to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes that is super masculine. Sometimes that could be a little bit feminine, but it's programmed in you. Yep. And like society wants to change all of us or push us into certain directions sometimes. And I just feel like you can't ignore what's inside of you. Like for me, like as I got older, I feel like my throat chakra was always stuck because I had all this stuff I wanted to say and all these things I wanted to be. And I was like, I'm so pent up because I'm not doing it. And like the second that I like stepped into the roles that I dreamed of myself being, I felt so free. And I realized that for me did mean having a husband. It did mean wanting to have a family. It did mean also wanting to be a badass entrepreneur. But I am very in tune with my feminine side now. Yeah. And that was something that I was really scared of for a long time, like being feminine. And it's not even like being feminine to me isn't like doing my hair and doing my makeup and stuff like that. Like I obviously don't identify with doing my hair and my makeup, but I'm a natural girl. But like your feminine side, just being like, I don't know, like being more creative, like being compassionate, like you use the word nurturing, which I think I am nurturing in a way where it's like every person I meet, I just want to make them feel good. And, you know, like for example, yesterday we went to the car dealership and Joey went in and he was like, I hate these guys. And I was like, good morning. How's your day go? Like, that's just how we roll. Like, you know, like he's going to be blunt. I'm going to be like, wee, like, sorry, you know, but that works for us. Like, that's just how I am. And like me understanding what I want has been amazing because now we don't fight at all about like those roles, or we don't like fight about like who's doing what, or like it's just automatic. Like we just like exist. Like there's literally no fighting about that stuff. And like honestly, Joey cooks all my food. I'm not gonna lie. Like I don't cook because I would cook and it wouldn't be enough to feed him. And so he's like, and I think a lot of men are really into grilling and like, but it's all masculine, right? Like he's making steaks and he's, you know, he's not mixing a salad, which I'm not saying like salad's not masculine, but like, you know, like to him, that's what those things are. But then again, if you look at like guys, like Neiman Delgado or something like that, he's like a vegan bodybuilder. Like he's a super masculine guy, but he doesn't have the typical, like I'm eating meat, I'm doing all this stuff. So I think like, all like masculinity is a spectrum. It can vary. It can be a bunch of different things.
Everyone's different. There's a spectrum on both sides. Coming back to, you said, hey, I'm really passionate about leading a team. Something that I discovered over the past couple of years with owning my own business is I love coaching. Obviously, I've been doing it for a while, but I really realized like there was a stint where short time I had employees is I've realized that like I definitely as the, you know, I continue down this path of owning a company is like, I want to lead a team because like, I love what I do as a coach, but a lot of times that has a certain degree of, you know, it comes to an end sooner, more often than not, than I'd maybe like it to. And that's okay. Like I'm here to build autonomy. I'm not here to keep people forever. But I think with like leading a team of employees is like, you can find the right staff member that might be with you 20, 30, 40 years and genuinely make it a career in your company. And that, like, to what your dad has built, to what you're building right now, like, is a dream.
My dad has had the same employees for almost 27 years.
Yeah.
They're like my uncles. They were all at my wedding.
Yeah.
And when I was younger and looking at that, I had no idea what that, meant. But now it's like, oh my gosh, like my dad is creating an ecosystem. He created jobs, he created life, he created opportunity for so many people just from having one dream and just from committing to, I'm not going to be the best at this, but I'm going to figure it out. And what I appreciate the most about my dad is he's so smart. Like he is so business oriented, but he has what I have. He has so much compassion for people and for his employees. And a lot of business owners, and I'm going to say this because anyone who starts their business, they really have to understand this. Like, you can't look at an employee and measure them by their hourly salary. Like, you can't just be like, oh, this person's worth $15 an hour. I don't need her anymore. I'm going to kick her out of this room because I have 30 minutes left. And like, really, pay her the extra $7. What is it going to do to your life? It's not going to ruin your bottom line. No. Like, if you really are in a position where you're that worried about pennies, like my dad always said to me, he's like, don't worry about pennies. Like, don't worry about nickels and dimes. Like, just worry about dollars. And I value that. Like, recently I went on vacation, and if I come back, like I'll give everyone cash bonuses, like larger than any bonus that they would ever receive from a large corporation. And the way that they look at me after that, they're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just love you.
Stop stepping over dollars to pick up pennies.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we see that in the health and fitness industry, people, missing the forest for the trees or stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. Like, if you're going to bed at 11 a.m. and getting up at 5 a.m. to do fasted cardio, like, you're missing the point.
Yeah. Exactly. And also, like, in terms of employees and stuff like that, like, if you think you're going to hire employees and they're just going to work for you, you're so wrong. Like, it's crazy. Most people are going to come work and they're going to leave. Some people are going to stay, and you're going to find maybe that one person. Like, I have somebody who I've met 2 years ago. She's a little Jenny. And I told her, I go, look, I worked for a lot of horrible people. I will tell you absolutely everything I know. Work with me, by my side. And now, like, she's going to move on, but she's getting every single job that she applies for, every single internship. She walks into a room and she says, I just put on my Jenny pants and I just pretend like I'm you, and everything works. And I'm like, and that to me is like, that is better than any amount of money I can make, like knowing that I literally changed the course of someone's life.
100%.
And I've had, dozens of mostly ASU students, like younger kids come through and talk to me, and I'm teaching them everything. Like, I'm like, here's what we're doing, but why, how did I learn this? Like, pick up systems. Like, that's it. Like, you can go work at Starbucks and don't be miserable. Look around, look at the systems, because that's it. That's all a business is figuring out systems, figuring out, like, just don't, spend more than you make. And then from there, like, employees, like, it's selling the dream. It's like, hey, I'm doing this. We're going to build this together. If you stick with me, you're going to be on the ground zero of something potentially fantastic. And that is like being in a small vibe. Like, in the busy season, I had up to 8 people on my team. Mm-hmm. I was like in my kitchen, like, I was like, oh my God, I could cry thinking about it, like, of just dreaming of like having that and it being there and everyone being like, let's go, and hitting the markets and selling out. Like, nothing compares to that. And it's like, if I do have to spend a little bit extra money, or if I do have to spend a little bit more time with this person, like, that's what it means when you sign up to start a business. Like, that is what it is, and you're a leader.
And I can tell you from coaching, gives me a unique perspective as a business owner into the insight of like being where you are in your business and having staff. Those text messages of gratitude or anything mean way more than any dollar sign in your bank account.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it's about. So wrapping it up, we've heard a lot about your business. What is it? Where can people find you? What's next on the horizon? 5 minutes.
So it's Earth Sugar. We make 100% gluten-free, organic, vegan energy bars made with real dried fruits, no seed oils, no soy, no natural flavors. We sell them online, loveearthsugar.com. We ship them nationwide. We also do almost every single local farmer's market. If you're in Arizona, you can come see us at Gilbert, Uptown, Old Town, Downtown, High Street, Sedona, Flagstaff. We try to be all over the place, and we're in some select stores and growing. And you can reach me, Jennifer, at loveearthsugar.com. If you want to talk, definitely connect with us on Instagram at loveearthsugar. Follow me and all my silly reels.
Yeah, absolutely. With that being said, I mean, obviously, Intentional Health for Women podcast, anyone out there listening to this, like, this is the perfect product. If you have digestive issues, if you have an autoimmune condition, if you have, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, like, most likely this is going to be a safe food for you to be able to enjoy while doing and, dealing with any of these conditions that you have. And that's why we brought her on today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.